So I just started recording, but I'll edit it, obviously.
Sure.
So they're awesome. I mean,
Good.
well, the last few nights have been pretty rough. Not much sleep.
Sure.
Last night was a good night though, so I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah, I remember with our first, he slept like 4 nights in a row all night, like 2 months in, and we were like, we made it over the hump. And then that was the last time he ever did that. And to this day, he still wakes up. 7 years old.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, the other thing too is when we brought the baby home, my almost 3-year-old, it was like awesome. Like he was like excited. He wanted to see what he was doing. He wanted to help. He wanted to do all this stuff. But then like as a few days rolled on, you could start to see like the jealousy kind of kick in. And that was kind of what we were worried about because he's been the only child. So he's like, Mama, this is my time. What are you doing with this guy? And,
sure.
So it's been an adjustment the last few days, but overall we couldn't be happier. The whole process was awesome.
That's great.
So how many kids do you have?
I have 4.
Why do you say it like that?
I never expected to have 4 kids. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, I'd have been like, no, you're crazy.
Yeah, I want more kids and I don't think I would have ever thought that either, but I don't know. It's something about it.
One of them will get rich and successful and take care of me for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's my thing is I'm trying, especially because so far I have 2 boys, and if they keep pumping out boys, I'm telling them like, look, I'm going to train you to be an NFL kicker. And all you have to do is you have to master this one skill, kicking. And if you do that, you'll be perfect in life. And you just have to give a little kickback to your dad here. But
Adam Vinatieri, the top scorer in NFL history.
Yeah. Or even a punter. I mean, even those guys, you're talking $800,000 a year to kick the football, right? And
salary.
And they like never get hit anymore. So it's not a bad gig as long as you don't choke until you choke. And then you're like, oh, well, I screwed up the first time of my life and now I lost my job.
Right.
So that could be bad. Very cool. So I'm going to edit this. Basically, we'll start from now. What I do is I post it to the Facebook and stuff. And like, it's live streamed, it's not a live interview, just in case we say anything that we want to edit out or anything like that. But for the most part, I mean, we're just going to talk and I want to hear about you and solar and tell people about you and see where it goes. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome, man. Well, so first off, thank you for giving me some of your time. I know you're a busy guy and you're very popular in the solar space. You're probably the most famous solar person I've ever talked to. So you might be the most popular person there is out there. Obviously, that has a lot to do with your marketing and your branding, and it says a lot about yourself. But can you tell me a little bit about where did you come from before solar or before Solar Cheat Code, and how did Solar Cheat Code kind of come to be?
Sure. And thanks again, Kyle, for having me on. I love to do these things. I think people think I'm busier than I really am. I'm not that busy. We have a big team and I don't do a whole lot. They kind of keep me locked in the basement until they need some new ads and then they'll pull me out. But thanks for having me on.
Of course.
So yeah, I mean, before Solar Power, I was selling gym memberships at Gold's Gym for like 7 years. And I'm telling you, like sitting across the table, speaking to someone who needs this very bad and trying to convince them to spend $19.95 per month to actually improve their health was far more difficult than sitting across the kitchen table and having a homeowner say, that's a no-brainer to a $40,000 solar system. So, you know what I mean? Like as soon as I had that concept blow up, like I sold my first deal and it was so easy. I remembered how hard it was to sell low ticket. And I was like, this is the industry. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I need to be doing. And I think a lot of people out there feel the same way. So I got into solar power in 2014 and it was right after the tax credit got raised to 30%. Back then they only gave us 12 months at a time for the renewal of the tax credit. So it was hard to scale a business and things of that nature. I was a W-2 salesperson for a little tiny solar company in the attic of a barn in Concord, New Hampshire, which was great because New Hampshire had very expensive electricity, like 24 cents per kilowatt hour. There's a local rebate. It was like, I think it was 70 cents per watt capped all the way up at 10 kW. So we got a big 7K check on a lot of systems. And it was easy. Like it was easy to sell people in New Hampshire because of those two things. But the competition started to go up. And I remember like 30 days after I started at this company, the general manager who hired me took all the install crews and left. It was just me. They formed their own company. And I remember he's sitting next to me like in November. I got hired on November 1st. This is November 30th. He's like, right before the holidays. I just had my first kid. He's like, yeah, so we're actually leaving and starting our own company. I can't pay you. I can't take you with me yet, but if you contact me in a few months' time, we'll take you on. I was like so mad because I left a 6-figure job at Gold's Gym and now everything was thrown up in the air. So I made this decision to stay at the company because I saw opportunity. I was like, well, you know what? Now I got leverage. I can prove my worth and I can potentially get my foot in the door for upper mobility in this company, which is exactly what happened. That same year, we did like $7 million in sales. It's nothing too crazy, but back then it was, I hired every single person. And that's how I got into this industry. So fast forward to Solar Cheat Code. I mean, really, it came out of necessity because I was purchasing leads as part of our repertoire, and I would just keep running up against the same competitor. So what I did, they'd get the same lead. So what I did was I would put my info into solar advertisements so that I could see who would call me. And if the guy down the street would call me, then I wouldn't purchase leads through that website. And after doing this time and time again, now this is back in 2015, I realized how easy it was, like how simplistic the landing pages were, how they were collecting information. You know what I'm saying? Like what the hook was. And I was like, well, I just got to learn how to do this. So I self-taught lead pages. Remember lead pages? They're still around.
I do. They kind of got passed. They were number one for like 7 years ago. Now they're other people have passed them. But yes, I do remember lead pages. So
it's like simple opt-in, and it worked. You know what I mean? Like it worked. I remember the first time I ran an ad, it was like 100 leads in the first month, and we were able to just sort of sidestep the $50+ leads that were exclusive. And then we were able to get better connection rates because it was real time and people weren't being delayed. Because when you have an opt-in, when you contact the person, they're still holding their phone. See what I'm saying? So it's a world of difference from if you were to purchase data or, age leads or things like that. You're basically competing with life at that point. But I started teaching some people in the industry how to do it. And all of a sudden I started charging for it. And then 3 years later, we have like 1,500 clients. So it's been a wild ride. Now this took over my full-time views back in 2018. Like I stopped selling solar power to focus on building this. And it's funny because now we're coming back full circle and now we're selling solar power again. So it's interesting. It all comes back around,
Yeah, I think it's important to obviously focus on, like we talked actually before I started recording, but we were talking about how focus is like a superpower. And I think too many people in business, they get something and it's working well. And because it's working well, they decide to try to do more, but they don't have that mastered yet. And then once they do that, they kind of start to half-ass multiple things rather than whole-ass one thing, as I would put it. So I'm actually, I love that you're from the gym because I'm from the fitness world as well. I was a fitness manager with pretty much every gym under the sun. And I remember, I just remember trying to sell these people like, personal training. Oh yeah, it's like $1,500 a month minimum. Obviously we didn't say it like that to the customer, but I just remember it was just such a hard sale. And there was so few people that were actually really qualified for that. And then I remember I worked, I started marketing, and then I was helping doing leads for other industries like roofing and plumbing and general contractors and just kind of more general home service stuff. And then I remember the first time I started learning about solar, I was like, wait, what? I was like, you guys make how much per sale? I was like, and the customer's saving money. I was like, that seems like a much easier pitch than anything I've ever sold in my life. And it is an incredible industry to be in. I love definitely the high ticket aspect of solar, but the fact that it is a no-brainer for so many people is what makes it such a cool industry.
How did you get into solar power, or when did you get into solar power?
I got into solar power. Let's see. I don't even know what year is it now. It's, COVID, everything slowed down, or sped up. I guess it really depends. Let's see. I got into solar early 2019. So nice. What happened was my son was born, and my first son, who's almost 3, and he was born. And we were in California, and we were living in Santa Barbara. And my wife was like, "Oh yeah, I really want to stay home with him." And I was like, "That's great, but I'm working a job. I only make $50,000-$60,000 a year.
Sure.
We can't afford to stay here, because if you don't want to work, we're going to live in a rundown apartment with 2 big dogs and a baby. It's just going to be miserable." So at that point, we moved to Utah, and that was when I turned my side hustle of marketing into basically my full-time life. And I did that. And then shortly after that, I really found my first solar client, and then I just fell in love with it, because it was, it sounds terrible, but yeah, it was easy. It was easier. And there's enough margin, there's enough commissions where it really makes sense for anyone to invest in online marketing and investing in themselves to do lead gen and all that good stuff, because it can be a no-brainer for everyone involved.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely a little bit better than fitness, in my opinion. I was actually trying to think about it today. I was wondering, I saw there's a gym in my hometown that's opening up, brand new gym, and I've never heard of it. I was like, this must be a very tough time to open a gym. I feel like that would be just a big challenge right now.
Reoccurring revenue, man. It's a powerful thing. Reoccurring revenue and personal training sales, obviously. I'm still friendly with the guys who they changed from Gold's Gym to a different name because they had like a $30,000 per month franchise fee, but they're thriving. They have 7 locations, and it's still packed, man. I think people have fatigue on not doing normal stuff. So we're back to normal life for the most part,
Yeah, I'm glad. I wish it would have happened sooner. One of the things, that when I look at that comparison of personal training versus solar was, there's personal trainers I know, and they were absolutely crushing it. They're the best personal trainers I've ever met, and I've met thousands. And their schedules were packed. They were making 150, 250K a year, personal training people. But the thing was that it's still sales. You still have to sell these people. You still have to get them to re-up. And on top of that, you still have to train the 50 hours a week of personal training sessions. So you're delivering yourself, which is the product. And that's one of the things that's refreshing about solar is you are able to make that good money, but it's not as it's more energizing. It's not draining like that would be. And I know the people that sold memberships as well. That's a huge grind. Every single month, you're pretty much kind of running at full speed the entire time. And solar can be like that, but I think it's definitely it's such a cool industry to be in. So tell me, when you were looking into solar, you came into solar, you had success, and then you started to help people with marketing. And out of that, Solar Cheat Code was born. What was your thought process behind starting Solar Cheat Code and not more of like a traditional marketing agency? Because I think since in the last couple of years, you've kind of expanded to some of those other methods. And now you're mentioning that you're getting back into actually selling solar yourself as well. But what was it that kind of you thought, I want to create a cheat code for people rather than kind of a service?
I had no choice. It was forced upon me. This was something that went viral at the beginning. We had 50 companies join in the first 30 days. It wasn't any looking back. It was like, even if it was going to be short term, this is what I was going to do at that point. And that's literally the only reason. It overtook everything. You know what I'm saying? I went from selling face to face, and we were doing good. We had a team. I was doing really well income wise, but then the Solar Cheat Code basically doubled it within the first 60 days. So it wasn't really any decision to be made. But I realized that when selling solar, you have a new boss and that homeowner for a couple months every single time. And being from the sales industry, I really enjoyed working with salespeople more than I enjoyed working with homeowners, really. So it was kind of like all signs pointed to this consulting gig. We rode that wave all the way up. Like we have roughly 10% of the entire solar industry as clients. So we're kind of at the saturation point where most of our consulting has moved from marketing to sales. So now we teach people exactly like how to open on the phone, how to actually get people to respond, because that's most of the battle. And then how to incentivize them to continue to take a pitch, like to actually go to the appointment. Like, what do you do in between? Like, okay, you set the appointment and there's an appointment time. What do you do in between? There's a very specific, I call it pre-appointment follow-up. So what we found is that most of the people who were coming in, they were like we would crush it on the marketing. They would have trouble on the sales side. So we're like, okay, let's move down the pipe, down the funnel into the sales process. Let's start consulting there. We started exposing people's breaks in their systems and then implementing the best practices. And then all of a sudden we would be turning around companies, you know what I mean? And then we would be able to scale. We have several clients who spend over 6 figures a month on ads now because we've been able to get the back end sales systems in place so that they can actually make profit, reallocate profit into the next month's budget increase. And then kind of like they just expand, but it all comes down to like how you can convert on the back end. So that's really what we're doing now is we're like it's like a biz development consulting business we do marketing on the front end. A lot of people think we're mainly marketing, but it's more or less a data company, like a data-driven sales systems company. So that's what we focus on. Which
is super smart because that's one of the things that anyone who's in the lead gen space or has been providing marketing as a service or anyone who's bought leads. And the reason that there's 100 different reasons why those experiments or those kind of trials fail. And a lot of times maybe it is on the marketing side, but a lot of times as well, it's on the sales side. And the biggest thing is working through the entire process and trying to basically connect the dots and make everything work. Because I think there's a lot of frustration from both marketers and sales reps when it comes to buying leads and buying marketing as a service. And it's all because of that. It's just because somewhere in the process, something isn't working like it's supposed to. And there isn't really as much coordination. So I think it stems from a broken mindset. And the reason I say that is because we would discover clients who we would book appointments and then they would be shocked when they showed up that the person didn't either remember or not show. And I would ask like, okay, so we booked this appointment. What happens after that? Like, we just drive out there, and it's like, well, okay, what did you do before you drove out there with them? Like, well, nothing. We don't want them to cancel. Right. So it's like, man, what a mindset fix, but it's an easy fix because when you explain to people like, hey, think about yourself. You do something online. There's like a little bit of immediate remorse. It's kind of like this unknown. You don't really know what's going to happen. All of a sudden you get a FaceTime video of Kyle, and Kyle's like, hey, it's Kyle. Got your info. Looks pretty good. Couple questions. This is what I'm about to do. This is what you're going to experience. This is what we need. It just completely bridges that gap from like random online funnel to real human being on the other end of the phone. And then people just sort of personalities flow to other personalities. You just see them saying like, you have to inject the human part of it or else you're just going to have a 50% no-show rate or a 30% cancellation rate after the sale. Like, you have to kind of bridge that gap from when the appointment's set to when it actually happens. Yeah, we encountered that when we were running my marketing agency was running an internal call center for a while. And the biggest thing that we found was the call center books the appointment. Whoever the sales rep is, they have to connect with that customer before they show up for the appointment. Before they show up in their home, they have to at least talk to them, introduce themselves, kind of get to know them, walk them through the next steps, and kind of warm them up to the idea of the process. Because what we saw was a lot of solar companies, a lot of clients, they have these people that are knocking, or not knocking, but these people that are calling, they're booking the appointments with their sales reps, and they give it to them. And like you said, the sales rep doesn't do anything. They just show up at the door whenever the time is. And the reason that we found that to be an issue was, like, for example, I talked to a homeowner. They're like, oh yeah, my name's Kyle. Great. Blah, blah. Let me get all your information. Let's see if you qualify. Great. The information looks awesome. I really think we're going to be able to help you. What we're going to do is we're going to send Bill out to your house. Bill will be able to be there tomorrow at 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. Do either of those times work? Right. And we would do that. And then what happens is they have no real obligation or connection with Bill. And it's much easier for them to no-show or it's much easier for them to no-show or cancel or reschedule because they don't have any attachment to Bill, and they don't really feel like they're letting anyone down, because as of right now, Bill's not like a real person. No offense, Bill. But until they've actually made that connection with the person. So that's why I do think it's awesome. And I think it's important for sales reps to kind of be able to book appointments on their own. And if they have an appointment setter, they have to have a workflow or a process so that they can connect with the customer before they show up. Because until you connect with the customer, those no-show rates are going to be very high.
Yeah, solar power. The problem with the solar industry right now is very easy to get. It's very easy to get solar power, and your sales organization is at risk of becoming a commodity. So you have to have that human connection. You have to really just stand out, essentially, or else you're going to lose. Well, you're at least going to go up against more competition, quotes, eats into margins, extends the sales cycle. For example, like I would call people and basically just say, hey, Jim, it's Bill. And I would sort of, like, my goal at that point would for them to ask, do I know you? Right. And I would just say, like, I just spilled pudding on my pants, but that's not, like, it just happened when I was calling. It's crazy. But the reason why I'm calling is ... And really, that's going to stick out in someone's mind more than if we're just like, hey, this is Kyle from ABC Solar Company. I'm calling about the solar estimate, blah, blah, blah. Right. And you want to decommoditize your sales process, because people will have a loyalty to you if they understand that you're just a real person. Right. And so that's like those nuance that you learn over time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another one that I've worked with people on is, like you said earlier, those first 10 seconds on the phone are probably the most important 10 seconds of the entire, at least for sure, the entire marketing phase, which is making sure that you can move them past their initial reaction. Because anytime I get on the phone with somebody and I don't recognize their voice, or I don't know who it is, my instinct says I want to get off the phone as quickly as possible. So whatever we can do to prevent that and kind of just get a few more seconds of their time so we can allow them to move forward. Like what I always used to do would be, hey, this is Kyle, or hey, Joe, this is Kyle getting back to you. And then they'd be like, getting back to me, Kyle, like you said, who is that? Do I know this person? And they're racking their brain thinking about it. And that buys you a couple seconds. Because what happens when they don't recognize us right off the bat, but it sounds like they should, they're actually like, they've kind of moved from this guy is annoying to, oh no, I got to remember who this is. And that little transition makes it much easier for you to start the conversation without them just trying to get off the phone as quickly as possible.
I think if you train for I'm not interested, or how'd you get my number, or I didn't do that, I think if you're ready for that and you know exactly what to say, you're not going to convert everyone, but you'll convert a percentage of people who normally you wouldn't. So it's like.
So you said wrong number. How do you handle wrong number?
Well, the problem with the wrong number thing, and the problem with people saying not interested or I didn't do that, is how we open on the phone. Because typically speaking, what the person clicks on the ad, like the headline, isn't what we say on the phone. So if your marketing says how to save a very specific amount of money with this new energy savings program, and then your appointment setter opens with, I'm calling about the solar estimate, there's a disconnect. People are like super intuitive, so they can smell bullshit, right? So it's like, that's not me. I didn't do that, right? So I think that's really where it comes. Now, when people do give you that verbal stiff arm, it's totally cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand. I get it. Before I let you go, would it be okay if I took 30 seconds of your time, told you why I'm calling, and if it doesn't make sense, you can hang up on me? Sound good? And it's just that sweet little pivot. And again, you're not going to get everyone with that, but you're going to get a percentage of people who you never would get if you didn't do that. And you just roll through. And it's very conversational. Like, everyone wants to answer this question. Like, what is this all about? Right? It's like, here's what this is all about. Essentially is what you do. Government wants people to conserve power. There's huge rebates and incentives, right? Plus, what most people don't understand is there's this alternative program to purchase kilowatt hours from Encore. See, Encore's largest expense is peak demand. They have to generate power in the middle of the day, right? And it's expensive for them. So what they do is they have this alternative plan to purchase kilowatt hours at a greatly reduced rate. Now, it's a program you have to qualify for. And the way you qualify is you have to produce some electricity from your own roof, right? With solar power. You have to. And the only way you qualify for solar power is you have to meet two criteria. Number one has to be no dollars out of your pocket. And number two, the savings actually have to be upfront for you. So on our call or on our appointment, whatever, we'll go through your pitch, azimuth, radiance, load of the home. We'll figure out if those things are true for you. And if they are, we'll show you how you could potentially save $10,000 on electricity bills in the next X amount of years. Right? So you just sort of keep it less about solar power. Solar power is like almost a way to get qualified for the reduced energy rate, because everyone cares about saving money. They don't care about how they do it. Right? I think being in solar power, we live, breathe, eat, sleep this stuff. And I think we just think people are interested inherently. And they're not. They're interested in their own pocketbook. So I think if you keep especially at the beginning, you got to remember where you are in the sales process. You're at the very, very beginning. You haven't delivered any value. There's been no reciprocity. They've actually delivered all the value to you. They've given you their contact information. You're on the freaking phone with them. You pulled them out of the ether if you're doing opt-in lead generation. And just remember, like, your job at that point is to like really just reciprocate the value and just move people down to the process where you can actually deliver that value. Right. So that's what we've seen work best across a lot of markets and companies.
No, I mean, it's smart. And what you were just saying there is, I think, important for any person who's new to sales to understand, is that people don't care about the features, they care about the benefits. And I think the best example I can give is when I went to college. I got a 4-year degree in kinesiology, exercise science. So I had all this information about physiology and biomechanics and motor development. And then I went to basically be a fitness manager at a gym called Equinox. And
I know Equinox. That's an expensive gym too.
Yeah. So I started as a personal trainer there, but regardless, I remember when I first got there and I had no sales skills at all. And I remember, like, my biggest problem was I would talk too much about the science. I would talk too much about, oh yeah, we got to do this because what it's going to do is it's going to release it's going to help your tissue and your fascia so that you're going to feel better. And we're going to be able to come back tomorrow and it's going to get your heart rate up to this point so that you can clear the lactic. Like, I would get, like, no matter what, I would always do that. And I remember the customers they didn't care. And
they glaze over, right?
They're like, oh, okay, that's nice. But as far as in the sales process, they don't care about that. They want, okay, my goal is this. How do I get there? And you got to say, look, I'm going to help you with this because I'm going to give you this training program and we're going to get you there by this date. And I think that's the thing with solar is I don't think there's as many people that are interested in like the technical and the spec side, like the equipment as much. But at the same time, you still have to understand that the homeowner's goal is to save money. Why are they interested in saving money? And then once you start talking to them about that and kind of connecting with them, that's how you can connect the solar purchase to whatever it means to them, whether it's going to be saving more money for retirement, whether it's going to be helping their kids go to college, whether it's going to be just not stressing every month over the bills. And that's the most important thing. I have a question for you because you mentioned your team likes to keep you in the basement. Obviously, being growing a successful company like yours, creating a team is probably the most crucial aspect of that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you built your team and what kind of the challenges that you faced with growing your business?
Yeah, well, with people, I'm always sort of surprised. It's usually I'm overjoyed at the over delivery, or I'm underjoyed. Never exactly what the expectations were. And I'm not that good at building a team. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I haven't really crushed it at that part of this business yet, but the people who are with me, they've been with me for over 2 years and they're happy. And I think it's just about providing opportunity. I mean, really it's like I spend 50, 60K a month on getting appointments in their calendar every single month. Like I've spent over $1 million just on Solar Cheat Code. We spend like $800K a month on our clients' ads. And I think it really comes down to, like, as a salesperson, they want to know that the company can follow through with what they're selling. They want to know that the company can provide opportunity and that they pay on time. And is really, if you just nail those things, you should have retention. I think culture is a big part of it. I don't put too much. I probably should do better at putting focus on like culture in my own sales office. But, yeah, I was just talking to my partner this morning. I'm like, I'm not a good sales manager. Like, I'm really not, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's powerful to understand what you're good at, what you're not good at. And I have very high expectations for people, especially people who work for me. And I think sometimes that can actually be a character flaw. So I'm working on that part of it.
I think hiring people that, obviously hiring is one of the things that you're able to do to offset your weaknesses, and having that awareness and understanding what your weaknesses are is super important and huge. You mentioned you're spending $50,000. Was that per month on your own advertising?
Yeah, well, like Solar Cheat Code, right? Like our own ads, the ones that you guys have been seeing for years, I spend about $1,500 to $2,000 a day roughly. And I would spend more. I just can't get more appointments. It's like, that's what the audience can support from what I can tell.
Yeah. So that's super impressive, especially from a marketing guy who knows that marketing lead gen companies have a rough time marketing or doing paid ads for their own business, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. But what I want to know is the only reason I think I don't want to say the only reason, but one of the reasons you've been successful is because have a very good, and your ads are always creative and they're different than everybody else's. And in our industry, one of the biggest things that we see is that there's people that don't have the creativity, or they don't have the time. They just want to go and copy what someone else is using. Can you tell me a little bit about your creative workflow and like the process behind that? How do you create unique ads, and really what is your what is your thought process when you're going into creating a new ad?
Well, it's a very good question. I think if you can really focus on what the intention of your ad is going to be, then it gives you insight as to what you should create. And I think what most people do in solar lead generation specifically is that they market to and convert leads from only people who are aware of the problem that solar solves. Any given market, there's an existing supply of interest. If I were to run a solar advertisement pitching, like Freedom Forever's ads, they're like $0 down, $79 a month, get a Tesla battery Powerwall. And it's like, okay, it's speaking to people who are already like interested. See what I'm saying? Like they're problem aware, they know about it, but that's only a very small percentage of the audience. 90+% of people aren't even aware of the problem that solar solves. So when you run advertisements to that very small percentage of people, you're actually just getting a piece of whatever's there. And you're also competing with every other marketer doing the same thing. See what I'm saying? That's why like exclusive leads that come from solar advertisements will still have multiple quotes. That's why we never really focus too much on YouTube or Google, because like the argument is better quality, but people are searching. And from our data, every time you get a YouTube or a Google, you're facing up to 3 quotes on every single person because you're marketing to the very tippity top of the early adopters. See what I'm saying? So when I create my marketing, my goal is to get eyeballs to glance at solar content. Just maybe people aren't ready to become a lead or book an appointment. Maybe they will watch 10 seconds of an engaging video that you post, or maybe they'll read a relevant article, you know what I'm saying, that you shared. Maybe they're willing to do that. And as soon as they do that, they're all yours. Like all this talk about iOS 14 and these tracking, blah, 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 it's all noise, because if you can actually become better at marketing and demand people's attention, and you actually get marketing that reaches more people, not just people who are already aware of the problem, then all of a sudden you're just creating your own direct audience. You know, and then those people can be served up your conversion advertisements where they're like, okay, this is making sense. This is the same person who I saw in the video that didn't even have a link in it. No call to action. The whole point of the ad is just to consume it. That's it. Because once they consume it, they're mine. And that's how we've done it with Solar Cheat Code, and that's how we do it with our solar advertisements. And it tends to breed loyalty in the lead, because the only reason they're interested in solar power is because you educated them. You created the awareness, the education, and you built the relationship in the marketing before they even booked a call. So like if they're going to go solar power, they're going to call you first. You see what I'm saying? So that's why Facebook remains for us to be the most profitable platform that we can find, simply because when you're marketing the right way and you're targeting and you're marketing messages to the potential of the audience, not just the people who are already aware, then you never run out. I call it demand generation, not lead generation. We do demand generation. Like we actually create demand and supply of leads in a particular market instead of just converting whatever's there already. So that seems to be the difference maker.
Yeah, that's my actual, before I did Facebook ads, my background when I was helping a lot of other industries other than solar, my background was actually in Google ads for the most part. And yeah, it is because people are searching for it. Yep. And so there aren't people that are necessarily searching like solar. Well, there are people that search for solar installers near me, but what those people are doing is, I mean, they're on Google, they're seeing this, they're going to go to the organic links, they're going to click on some of the ads. And like you said, that's how we're going to encounter people that are getting multiple quotes that are price shopping. And on Facebook, another thing that I see with a lot of people that are beginning and maybe they want to run their own ads is they create an ad and then they target people who are interested in solar energy. Sure. And those are the only people they target. And so those people are the same thing. They're the people that are already searching for it. And they're the people that are going to see solar ad after solar ad after solar ad after solar ad. And those are definitely, they're probably, like you said, they're the closest to, they're going to buy it now. They're definitely like the most, they're the desired leads, but also at that same time that you haven't built any value yet. And so you're competing with other people that may or may not have the same amount of value built up. And that is one of the things that I think is a frustration for anyone who's done online marketing is everyone says, oh, well, these aren't quality leads. That's something that is, I think sometimes used as a lazy excuse for sales reps, just like iOS updates seemed to be a lazy update for a lot of marketers that said, oh, well, it's just the iOS updates are making some changes and it's harder for us to get results now.
We've never had better results since the iOS update. I think it cleared the playing field a bit. There's less competition. We've been crushing it. I mean, we generate like 6,000 appointments a month, and man, it's just never been better.
That's awesome.
You know, so I just have to you have to look at why they're updating and what you can pivot to, not just throw your hands up in the air and blame things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely too much victim mentality out there. It's just because something becomes more difficult, we need to look at that as a challenge that we can take over, because there are an opportunity. Because
I know every time Facebook updates, less people are going to be able to do what we do. I know it, and I freaking love it.
What do you think about Facebook and they're how they constantly roll out updates, and they do want to make advertising easier to manage. Do you ever think there's going to be a point where they marketing guys like us are not going to have as big of an advantage over typical average people? Meaning Facebook seems to want to make it as easy as possible for someone to launch campaigns. They're trying to do built-in CRMs. They're trying to make it so that people can launch campaigns in an instant, and then giving them more power because they want those people to spend money. But my question is, do you think it's ever going to get to a point where an average business owner doesn't need a marketing agency to run a successful campaign?
No, I don't think that's even possible. The Facebook would have to get into ad creative. See, the thing that Facebook optimizes for is newcomers. They want new people to have success so that they continue to spend money. And then there's like this no man's zone. Like once you start spending real money on Facebook, you're put under a new level of scrutiny by the algorithm. And you better have your ducks in a row with your accounts and your business manager and all those things. And you better be able to scale, because if you don't scale, then it's hit or miss. Like results kind of ebb and flow. We've found that when, like, for example, when clients get to like $1,000 a day, guess what happens? The lead cost and the appointment cost go down. You get better. And it's like you're re-catching the attention of the algorithm, and you're reestablishing yourself at a certain level because there's less people up there. There's less people who can scale to $1,000 a day. But once you do, it's clear skies, so that's our goal. When we have clients come in, we're like, look, you better have 30K a month, like within 60 days, because we're going to freaking force growth through your marketing. You know what I'm saying? And you just got to kind of hold on for dear life. Because we know that if you don't scale, then it's going to be a far less likely chance that you're successful long-term, just because of the optimizations that we have to do.
It's going to be a much crazier roller coaster ride. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. But I think a lot of people go into marketing and they have a small budget because they want to test things out. But it's important to realize that if you do have a small budget, that's fine. But your goal has to be to scale that and to get to that point where you're able to really generate leads consistently and at a solid price. Because the more you spend, the less variability there's going to be on a monthly basis. And then you're not going to have those heart attacks every few months when things aren't going the way that you were hoping for.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think impresses me about you is your ability to maintain your reputation, meaning you have a great reputation, you have a good reputation. You're obviously in the solar space. You've worked with a lot of people. There's a lot of people that get blasted in the Facebook groups and that have bad marks next to their name. And you've worked with a lot of people, but for the most part, I mean, everyone I talk to has good things to say about you. Can you tell me a little bit about what is your philosophy when it comes to customer service as like a marketing agency owner, and what is what is the philosophy that you kind of carry with you for that?
Okay. So I trust myself, and I think people don't trust themselves enough. And the reason I say that is because I know that if we drop the ball on something, we'll make it right. Like we do it all the time. And now that I trust myself to do that, I can also trust myself to tell people exactly what they need to do to be successful, even if it's the hard truth. We're a coaching business. Tell people all the time, we don't hold your hand, we don't coddle you, and we don't take excuses. Like, the reality of it is we have clients that are doing X%, like, 8 figures a month in sales. So those people exist. They're not fictitious, right? I don't make them up. They're real. So they use the same funnel, same ads, same marketing company as you. So why aren't you where they are? Why are you complaining about the things you're complaining about? Problem isn't me or our process, because look at the reality of it. It exists. It's working for a lot of people. So narrowing down the focus on extreme responsibility and coaching these people to understand that they have the power within them to be the X factor. Right? Because when you get upset and you blame and you post in these groups about how don't use this because they didn't do this, you're just giving away your power. you're basically saying, I don't have the ability to do what these other people have done. And I'm lowering myself back down to that middle point. See what I'm saying? And I don't know why. I don't know if that translates into me not getting bashed on groups more. First of all, groups don't matter. These groups don't matter. They're fucking like, they're such a small, no one cares. It's just a bunch, like there's like that. There's groups that are calling out marketing companies. It's like no one, you know who goes there? Nobody's, like people who just complain about stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I going to do there? I'm not going to focus any of my attention. We were talking about focus before we started, right? I'm not going to focus any of my attention on any of that stuff. Just savage dedication to the clients who are actually working with me, because that's my opportunity to augment their reality. You see what I'm saying? So it all comes down to focus.
You think that's the biggest thing holding solar reps back, is their focus?
It's their focus and their responsibility for themselves.
It's their ownership.
Their ownership of their bullshit.
Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink is one of my favorite books. But I think that's something that solar reps, I think they go to, a lot of people go to marketing or they go to lead gen or they buy leads because they think it is easy, and it might be easier, but it's definitely not easy. And you still have to put in the work and the time. And as soon as something doesn't go their way, they want to blame somebody else. But especially with a company like yours and with all these successful marketing agencies, obviously they work, and you just got to figure out how to improve your process, and the marketing person will figure out how to improve their marketing process. One of the biggest things definitely is what we kind of already touched on earlier, which is calling and talking to leads on the phone. I think that's a skill in itself that not enough reps have mastered, because once again, they just expect like, oh, I'm paying for these leads, I should just show up and it should be like an automatic close. And that's not the way that it is. But yeah, I do think that is something that you have. And I know for a fact that even when you, like you said, when you drop the ball, you make it right. And that's something that I've always done. And that's something that anyone who does that, I respect, because marketing there's a lot of different steps, and it's easy for someone to drop the ball at some point. It could even be the sales rep that drops the ball, but doing whatever it takes to at least make it right with the customer is something that is very, very important, because there's a lot of people that want to save money, and they get marketing from somebody who's in their Facebook inbox who they've never even heard of or talked to before. And they're like, oh, I can get you 100 leads for $2,000, and you pay for 3 months, and we'll get you this many appointments, and you'll close this many deals guaranteed. And then they sign up for it, and then they're unhappy that it didn't work. And the marketers are doing that, by the way, and they require multiple month commitments, because some of them are pretty much kind of scamming you and trying to take your money and run. And they aren't concerned with making it right, because they're just looking for a quick buck. So shout out to anyone out there who always tries to make it right with their customers, because that's how you're going to build and maintain a solid reputation. Awesome, man. Well, I know you got some stuff coming up here soon. I'm gonna let you go. One of the things I want to get kind of your thought process on is not thought process, but your thoughts on is the solar industry. One of the things that I see from the marketing side is the companies that are really thriving and are being successful, what they're doing is they're kind of bringing more of the operations in-house, more of the different sides of the business under their control. And so I guess it might even have to do with how you mentioned that you're kind of going back into the sales side of things and building a sales org. Is that kind of your thought process? Is you guys have already kind of mastered all these other things, and now you want to bring more in-house so that you're able to kind of grow your business even farther?
So we're decentralizing red lines. And what I mean by that is, usually as a sales rep, you have to work for a company. The company marks up a red lines to get their cut. And then, that's sort of the structure of it. What we kept running into with our clients is that they couldn't afford to expand. So what that means is, like, the Titans and the Freedom Forevers, they're consolidating their sales partners. So they don't take small people anymore. And we had clients who were in business for years doing millions of dollars, but then they'd get like a 3 or a 250 red line. So they wouldn't expand. They wouldn't do anything with it because it's not affordable. So we're becoming strategic partners with the main installers in the country, because we have market specific data, because all of our clients use our CRM. Like we're able to track everything, like literally everything. And we can tell what markets have the best ROI and the quickest installs. So we're able to work with the installers, and they can tell us, hey, we have crews sitting in this location. That's the market you should be allocating funds to. And we would just tell the members, like, spend money in El Paso because you can install within a week because they're slow. See what I'm saying? So because we've become a strategic partner with them, they subsidize our install rates. We pass those savings on to the sales guys. So essentially what we're doing is we're allowing people to expand into markets that they wouldn't be able to reach because they're physically located with an installer that only goes a certain area. And now they can actually branch out and use our information to, like, hey, Oklahoma, 1-for-1 net metering, you can install within 30 days. No one's doing solar power there. CPAs are under $1,000. Let's open campaigns there. And we can front run trends in the market. See what I'm saying? So that's what we're doing, is we're connecting the marketing data with the install data so that sales reps in the middle can make more money in faster install time. So it's more of a tech data company than a sales org. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. And I think you're leveraging the data that most companies kind of ignore for the most part. Too many companies I worked with don't have the systems in place to actually keep track of how much they're making in these markets, how fast the installs are, what the churn rate is. And like when you're able to do that and identify the markets where you're going to have much better success, you can focus your resources there. I also think,
not to cut you off, but sales organizations are being commoditized not only by the homeowner because solar power is so easy to get, but they're being commoditized by the installer because they're getting so many installs. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't care where the installs come from specifically. They're getting thousands per month. And what we find is that there's no data given to the sales org on where they should go. So we have clients who will invest money in markets that end up being a long install time, which will increase cancellations. And then the installer will pull jobs back because of the cancellations. But the reason they're canceling in the first place is because they're taking too long to install. So it's like I just see this glaring disconnect in this industry where imagine you can just look at a market and you can choose, okay, here are my installers, here are my rates, here are the install times. Look at that M2 payments. They're coming in 30 days. I'm going to allocate my monetary energy, which is in my bank account, to that market because I can look before I leap now. So it's just mitigating all the disconnections between this whole sales dealer model so that everyone can be on the same page. And that's what we're working towards.
Yeah. And I think that's what any company that wants to continue to be successful has to work on, eliminating those disconnects as much as possible. And I think one of the biggest disconnects that I see is, you actually mentioned kind of it earlier, which is the person that's calling the leads doesn't know what the ad said specifically, or they're not talking to what the ad is saying. And there's a disconnect there. And we encounter that sometimes where the marketing agency or the lead gen company, they want to be kind of secretive about what their ad says or what their secret sauce is, because they're worried that their client's just going to take the ad and run. And it really isn't that easy. But regardless, I think it's just important that we realize that from marketing, from lead gen, all the way through install, there's disconnects all throughout the process. And the more that we can kind of internalize and centralize those work processes within our company and within our brand, we're going to be able to eliminate those inefficiencies and hopefully have much more success. And that's one of the things that we're doing. Like, that's one of the reasons why Andrew at Cadessa brought me on as their marketing director is our idea is that if we can provide lead gen and marketing services for our reps at cost, they'll have more information about the ads. We'll have the more systems in place to help them provide them with leads and appointments and all that good stuff. And we're just going to have much more success than we would if we're kind of duct taping our marketing company to our sales company to our install company and kind of tying that all together. It's just not quite as efficient as we would like. And the more control we have, the better. Awesome, Bill. Hey, man, I appreciate your time, dude. You're you're a very interesting guy to talk to. You're very you're very focused, and obviously you're successful, and I really appreciate it. So anyone who is not in the solar or is new to the solar industry, who maybe hasn't heard of you or doesn't know about you, can you tell them what's the best way for them to contact you or reach out about your company?
Yeah, just cheatcodesforsalespros.com. Go there, check out my Facebook page. It's Bill Murphy.
Yeah, and he has one that's Bill Murphy's hat too, which actually I want to ask you about. What's the deal with Bill Murphy's hat?
So that was made by the members. Members made it. Like the hat became a thing. Like the hat is its own brand in a way. Facebook, in the election last year, Facebook banned me from advertising on Facebook because they thought I was a political entity, which they still have not reversed. So I had to start a new page, a backup page. You know what I'm saying? Bill Murphy's hat.
Don't you love when Facebook does that without any real clarification and you can't get anyone to message you back?
Yeah,
listen,
ever since I've been banned on Facebook, I've made millions of dollars from Facebook. So, and it's funny is like our agency is on Facebook's approved preferred agency list. So we're actually on Facebook's green listed list of agencies. Like you have to go through a lot of hoops to get there. And they'll tell me, they're like, well, you can't advertise, but your agency can advertise. You know what I'm saying? So just use your agency. I'm like, okay, whatever. This makes zero sense.
Yeah. It's frustrating, man, especially when you have these huge companies that you have no control over and they kind of dictate your entire business. But I'm glad you're still able to find success. I know a lot of people struggle with that and stressed out when their accounts.
Well, they let it stop them. And it's silly because it's so easy to not let things stop you. You know what I'm saying? Or you just got to kind of problem solve a bit more. Yeah, I mean, the reason I was shut down is because I own the business manager that we ran ads out of for dozens of companies, and credit card, like you get a certain amount of credit card failed payments on ad accounts. And it's just like this, it's like this algorithm. It's like a robot that shuts you down. And it's just like, yeah, again,
it's either an algorithm or sometimes it's like minimum wage employees somewhere that are just, they see one line in your ad and they think, oh, this is a political ad, and they click a button and then you're doomed.
Oh, they don't do that. It's actually just it's a robot crawling your ad. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no humans doing any of that stuff. You're just literally fighting against, I call it the Terminator, or the Predator. You're fighting against the Predator. So, which is why if you focus on what solar power does for people instead of what solar power is, then you get shut down less, because solar power is that sort of gray area of like special category, or you know what I'm saying, with the environmental benefits or whatever. So it makes it easier when you're just focused on where the rubber meets the road anyway.
Yeah, it mentions a tax credit, so therefore it must be an ad related to taxes, right?
Credit. I mean, you're talking like whenever you say payments or like no payments or this or that, it's a credit offer. There's just, you just have to kind of like outsmart the robot.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we will be able to keep outsmarting the robot for a long time to come. Hopefully Skynet is not taking over anytime soon. But I think we'll do just fine because we have smart dudes like Bill Murphy. Bill, thank you so much, man. I hope that anyone who's watching this checks you out and reaches out and gives you a chance to show them what you're all about. One more question. See, I keep having these questions that come up because you mentioned sales. What was the website again?
Cheat codes for sales pros.
All right. Cheat codes for sales pros. So are you moving into other industries other than solar?
We are staying in solar and getting people from other industries into solar.
Very cool. What other industries do you find is if you had to rank what you think is going to be second industry under solar for you guys, what would that be?
Well, people who are in homes. So HVAC, alarms, roof. We don't think we need to spend money to get referrals. We can just pay people. So we're going to be making HVAC techs and alarm techs double their commission just by introducing us. So
Awesome, man. That's smart. That's one of the best types of leads / handoffs that you can get is from those referral people that are already in the homes. And that's something that I've long played around with, but I have yet to master. But it sounds like you guys are well on your way. So Bill, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it, man. We'll have to do this again sometime, since I know that you're in your basement waiting for guys like me to message you.
Please.
We'll schedule another one sometime in the future, but
sounds good.
I look forward to it, man. Take care.
Thanks, Kyle.
And